Ladies, I'm so excited to see you all. Thank you so much for joining me at the table today. I'm excited to just chat with you and hear some of the conversations we're getting ready to jump into and talk about the new movie, The Forge. And man, there's so many things that I want to bring to the table today to talk about. This movie, though, is so important for our culture today. It's all about discipleship. And when I think about each and every one of you women, I think about just the opportunity that each and every one of you have, not only to pour into another, but to be poured into, and then to share this message of discipleship. And so I'm thrilled to have y'all. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
thanks for having us.
It's so fun. It's so fun seeing everyone's faces again. It's been a year now. It's been like a year for most of us.
I know. In fact, you know what I was just thinking about, Anna, the other day is I think I pulled up some behind the scenes photos and it was everybody playing pickleball.
Oh, in the warehouse?
Yeah.
Yep. This movie was the start of my pickleball addiction, for sure.
That's so true.
Same.
She pulled up with like checkered pink pickleball paddles a few weeks later.
I don't know how you guys did it after long days on set. I was like, I'll pick up pickleball after the movie's done. What do you have done?
We did it on weekends. We did not do it on shooting days. I was way too tired.
There were some that did it, though, on shooting days.
Yes.
There were a few.
Well, I want to kick us off. Good thing as talking a little bit about pickleball, and see, we have a good time on set too. It's not just all work, but we get to play and be in relationship with one another and think about making memories. And I thought, it'd be fun to talk a little bit about just a few things kicking us into drive here, but I wanted to ask each and every one of you, and if you can share kind of briefly, what is the most embarrassing thing, or maybe something funny that might have happened or occurred either on The Forge or another movie set that you've been on?
Start us off with an easy one, Shari.
I have one.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
It was not on The Forge, but it was on another feature a year or so ago. And I was looking at the monitors. I had my sunglasses on. I was looking at the monitors. We hadn't started shooting it for that day, but I was making sure I could see everything, and nothing was showing up. Like the screen was just like black, and so I was like, okay, this is a problem, and like I need to be able to see. And so I spoke to the camera PA and I was like, hey, can you like come look at these monitors? Like they're not working and I need to be able to see what's going to happen. And so he comes over and he like looks at me funny and he's like, they're working fine. And I was like, but I can't see anything. And then I realized I was wearing my sunglasses. I took them off and I was able to see everything. I was so embarrassed. I felt so dumb. But it was like, he was so funny about it. Like it was just, it was bad, but it's funny.
I love it. Well, it's very important that the script supervisor gets to see the screen. If you don't see the screen, we have a problem.
It's true. I was feeling very unprepared and then just feeling very stupid after that.
I love it. That's a good one. Who else has something fun?
I have a fresh one that just happened a couple weeks ago on a film I was doing. We were filming out at the lake in the summer. It was on and off rain the whole 3 weeks we were filming. And so this day it's on and off raining. And we're filming outside in the woods on this little place by the lake. And as makeup, I'm going in for last looks and everything looks fine. Of course, the second I step away, something happens, so I'm trying to run in between takes really quick, and I just eat it. I just completely fell and got mud all over me. But I mean, the take worked out. It worked out, but it was pretty embarrassing because they had to cut because everyone couldn't stop laughing. So very typical of me, but that one was fresh.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that would be a moment for sure.
Oh, good.
I think for me it was there's plenty in Flywheel because we were just working with basics, but in Fireproof I was doing a scene with Kirk Cameron and Aaron, and I remember talking with Alex beforehand. He's like, he's such a great director. He's like, make the lines your own, like make them your own. So I was like, great, I'll memorize them like that. So I'm saying this line, and then Steven comes up and he's like, I really think she wouldn't say it like this. I think she needs to say, the doctor needs you to go get these prescriptions. Instead, I need you to go get these prescriptions. So I was like, okay, all right, I'll change it. But for some reason, I could not say the doctor needs you to get these prescriptions. It was like take after take after take. And like Kirk's like, really? I was like so embarrassed. And my daughter's like in the background as this little kid. And she was like, Mom, why can't you say it right? And I don't know what it was. It was just, I had practiced it so much like the other way. And honestly, I think, I could be wrong, but I think what the take that actually made it was the one where I said, I need you to go get this prescription. I don't know, but it was so embarrassing. I was like, I'm like, you're working with Kirk Cameron, a veteran, and you can't even say, like, change one line. It was sad. It was embarrassing.
You know what though? But that happens to us. It's so funny because we get something in our mind, and all of a sudden that's the way you see it and you hear it that way, and it's really hard to back it out and then start over again. And I mean, I've had that same thing happen as well. And even saying a word, I remember my son went on an audition and I told him that it was like Chipotle or something.
Yeah.
I gave him the wrong word. And it was so hysterical because he came out and he goes, Mom, I said the word wrong because you said it wrong and I'm not going to get the job. It's not Chipotle, it's Chipotle or something. I was like, oh my gosh. But that happens, right? It happens. So,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Okay, Miss Anna, what about you?
Oh, I was trying to think of something, and then I thought about making up a story just for fun. But this was, I almost did. I was like, don't do it.
But I've known you too long, Anna. I would have caught that.
You would have caught it. What I was thinking of was when we filmed Fireproof, I was maybe 8, maybe. And the scene at the very end, this is more iconic, I think, than embarrassing. But I was like 8 years old. There's the scene at the very end of the movie where the couple's renewing their vows. And so I'm in the audience watching the wedding happen. And I'm telling you, we filmed this scene, maybe it felt like 80 times to my 8-year-old brain. And I was like, they have so many takes. The first one was perfect. And so they have the camera on the big old crane going across, like filming all of us. And they said, the only thing you cannot do is look at the camera. So I didn't look at the camera. And then this one time I was like, I'm going to look dead at it and smile. It'll ruin this shot just because I'm so tired of doing this. So I got this big old bow in my hair and I'm sitting there and I'm hunched over like this and I'm going like this, looking at the camera. I just got this big old smile on my face, and they used the shot in the movie. And so you see like my face come into the camera for like almost my full face, but I'm just looking dead into the camera smiling, and they used it in the movie. I was like, surely they ruin it. So I kind of thought that was iconic. When it came out, I was like, Dad, I was looking at the camera. Anyways, but
oh my gosh. Why don't you kick us off, Anna? Tell us a little bit about what you did on the Forge. And
Okay.
you've been working in films just like you explained for many years now with your dad and your uncles and your family. And so part of this Kendrick team, so to speak. And so talk a little bit about your role though, and what that was like for you as a first timer in this particular department.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, the only part I had in any of the previous films was we'd take meals to Dad while he was working on set, and we'd pop in for a cameo shot. That was about it. So when I tell you I didn't know what I was doing this past summer, I truly didn't. And I had a few people tell me, they're like, Anna, just act confident, walk into your job, and if someone needs to correct you, they will. So it was definitely a humbling experience, but it was fun. So the on-set costumer, I think is the proper title, basically just is on standby, and they step in before each scene starts, before they start recording, and you just make sure they look okay. So you fix the collars, you tape any buttons that are showing too much, make sure there's no stains in the outfits. So there was a few scenes where they would like hug each other and they'd get makeup on the shirts, and I would just panic because I was like, so pull out your wet one wipe and you're just scrubbing the shirt, and then it's wet, so you're blowing on the shirt and like you got a fan on it. So it keeps you on your toes. I was like, it was a fun job because I got to be right up there, part of the action. I got to watch the whole thing. And I know some of the other girls working in the department had, more responsibilities to where they had to be in the office organizing all the costumes. And So anyway, it was a blast, and I had this awesome girl who helped me the whole way through. She kind of coached me, but yeah, it was a blast. I got to sit in Video Village and watch the monitors and wear a headset, and then I'd pop in and make sure they looked good right before. So it was a great first job for being that involved with the film. That was a blast. That being the first job I've ever had.
I love that. I love that. Well, everybody looked great. And I think there's a couple of things I'm going to come back to and ask you about, because I remember a couple of days on set where there was these moments, we're getting ready to shoot a scene, and all of a sudden I think there was like one moment where there might be, we were missing an item or something like that. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then there's a couple of you also that had cameos in this movie. So you're kind of playing double duty, which is always really cool. But we'll come back and talk a little bit about some more of those things. Chandler, it's crazy because first time on the Kendricks movie, and you came in and tell us a little bit about how long you've been doing what you've been doing, and then just tell us about what it was like through the process for you to come into this particular role, and then what your role was during the filming of The Forge.
Okay. So I was Priscilla Shire's personal makeup artist, which was a huge career accomplishment for me, because when I started out in film around 10 years ago now, I was introduced through people's personals. A lot of my mentors at the time were personals for talent, and so I always knew that was such a higher up goal to keep working towards. And by God's will and Shari Rigby's way, made it happen. And I met Shari through Divine Influencer last year, and she reached out to me, and it was such an honor, and I was very excited. I was very nervous because I came down halfway into filming, so everyone had already been down there, and I just had no idea what I was walking into. Obviously, my family grew me up on the Kendricks films, so that was very exciting, and it could not have been a better, more welcoming experience. I mean, I felt like I was at home the first day on set, and it was everyone's third week. So I was very, very grateful for that, and it was really cool being a personal, because I felt like it gave me so much extra time allotted to kind of really get to know different areas and roles on the crew, and get to spend extra time with people that I might not have had if I was doing, the rest of makeup. So I got to hang out with Tammy and learn a lot from her, and it was just cool. It was such an easy set to learn on. Everyone made it such a comfortable experience too, where you weren't timid, you weren't shy to ask questions. It felt very, very warm and welcoming to learn on. So I was very grateful for that as well.
I love that. Well, you are exceptional at your work, as all of you. And I love that what you're talking about right now is really the essence of discipleship, right? Because even hanging out with Tammy, and Tammy being such a part of the Kendrick Brothers team for such a long time, that it's like you guys get to sharpen one another, and you get to pour into one another, and you get to love on each other. And, I think that's such a vital piece to what we do in this industry, because on so many sets, it's not like that. We don't walk onto a set and feel that kind of common bond, or that piece that people are going to be pouring out into us, and we get an opportunity to do the same thing. I have to tell you, Chandler, I loved watching your interaction with Priscilla, and just with the entire team, because you did step onto set and you felt like you were part of this family that we've all been part of now for a long time, and you just picked up. And that's not always easy to do. And I also have to tell you, I found my favorite makeup that you shared. But I just, anyway, I love that you shared that, because I do think that discipleship factor is so important. And And that's, I'm going to go into and kind of lead into, Janet, you've been part of the Kendrick Brothers team for such a long time, and you started behind the camera, or in front of the camera, I guess, and maybe a little bit of behind the camera. But tell us a little bit, because you've really worn so many hats, and you've been such a big part of these projects in so many ways. Tell us a little bit about where you started, how this has all really evolved, and then what your role was on The Forge.
Well, I think actually what, piggybacking off of what Chandler said, like the Kendrick Brothers sets are always great for discipleship, because they at one time were the guys learning. So in Flywheel, we didn't know what we were doing. We were just being obedient to what God asked us to do. And so we would come on set and it would be like, okay, what wardrobe did you bring? Can you make sure that you wear that again later? Like, we were in charge of our own wardrobe, our own makeup, and all that stuff. And Stephen Kendrick's holding a boom mic, and I'm holding a little light from the Home Depot. Like, we all did it. And so they remember what that was like. And so when they ended up doing Facing the Giants, and they had some, I think it was 4 or 5 professional guys come along to see Flywheel, they poured into Stephen and Alex and a bunch of us church members and taught us and allowed us to ask those questions. And so I have seen the Kendrick Brothers just make it a priority, Alex and Stephen and Shannon, make it a priority for young, aspiring filmmakers and people and crew to come along, and it be a safe environment for them to learn and ask those questions. And I'm just so proud and honored to have been a part from the beginning and see how God has blessed them, blessed their humble attitudes. Like, they remember. It was 21 years ago, but it seems like yesterday sometimes. Wow. And so to see, like, this past time on The Forge, a lot of our kids were there and serving. They had seen that, and getting to serve alongside your children and seeing them use their gifts and talents for what is amazing. And just there were so many young people learning and growing, and I love that is the environment that they make it a priority for on their sets. And I remember sitting there talking to Tammy at lunch for hours about other personal things, not movie stuff, but just personal things, just hearing her heart and being able to ask questions and just know that she was going to be honest and transparent and help me along in me growing as a person too. And so every movie I've done something different. I ended up being an extra coordinator for this movie, which after Facing the Giants, I said I was never going to do again, but you don't tell God that. So they asked me to be an extra coordinator, and I just am always grateful that they asked me to play any small part. So I was like, yes. And every movie I see God work in ways that are just amazing.
Awesome. That's so good. Well, Tammy, I'm going to throw it over to you now. But thinking about what Janet just said about sitting at these lunch tables and talking, really, that's like the ultimate of breaking bread together and being in these places to have these conversations. And talk to us a little bit about you being on The Forge. You've been on other Kendrick movies as well. And just talk a little bit about what you do and what you're an expert at, hair. And
Yes.
It's crazy. And how you come up with the styles and work with each and every cast member, because you're working with multiple talent. Talk to us a little bit about that.
First and foremost, pardon my tardiness. Wi-Fi was awful. But so I was invited onto the Kendricks, the first production for Overcomer. And I came in as a key, day playing, and that was the first show that I saw my name on the screen, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so real, because this is actually an encore career for me, meaning I'm switching over into a new journey. And so what I love about the Kendricks is, I guess all of you know right now, I am just naturally silly. I cannot help it. It's just who I am. And a lot of times on shows, people, they don't appreciate or they don't welcome who you are authentically. They feel like it's a facade, or they feel like if somebody else is watching, that they're going to be pushed to the back burner. and they don't allow you to be who you are. But on the Kindreds, I can be exactly who I am. The music, the laughter, the giddiness, the wigs. And so that's what I embrace about the Kindreds. And that's what I love about everyone. It was a pleasure laughing and journaling with Janet because she is hilarious. So I find the joy in just being there. But one of the things that I mostly enjoyed was that time when no one could see me, but somebody saw me. You would always, if you saw it, then you knew it. I could tuck away and do praise and worship. Only a few people would see me do that, but it felt so good. It was just nice to know that my gifts are being used. God sees me, it's welcome, and I am producing something that's going to bring people to Him, to bring people to His light. And that's what I enjoy. In the beginning, when I first started at The Overcomer, I was on the scale like, do I want to do Christian movies? Or I was like teetering. And so I was like, no, Christian movies, you don't make enough money. Like, they come and go. But then coming back, I was like, it's Christian. It's Christian films. I can't say that I can be authentically, I can't say that I'm really working in my gift when I'm not on a Christian production, because I'm allowed to be exactly who God created me to be. And that's what I love about the Kendricks production.
Wow, that's so good. I love that. And I love that, it's true. I remember wasn't there an award or something? I'm trying to remember back. Yeah, I'm having this moment, but you got an award, and I think when they introduced you, we were talking. They mentioned about this is Tammy, and that was why it was so fun. Can you?
I do. I don't remember, and it was funny because I don't think I was in the room. I think I was talking to somebody else, and they were like, "No, they're calling." I'm like, "Wait, what?" And so I, just like, "What's happening?" But I think it was. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think the award was just about me just being that jovial, giddy Tammy. Like, that's generally who I am. And it's honestly just not welcome in a lot of places.
Yeah. I love that you said that too about being authentic. It's so funny because you do hear that a lot. There's a lot of, and I'm going to jump to you, Grace, because you've worked on multiple faith-based movies now, and you've worked also with your husband. And so there's some additional pieces to it. But that is something, Tammy, I think, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, is people always think that when you go out and you're on a secular project or you can be yourself. But then but really, if you're a believer, it's so funny because I've actually found it to be quite reverse. When I'm on a faith project, I actually have the ability to be myself. And even if people don't agree or whatever it is, but they love me unconditionally.
Yes.
And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And then I go, I don't want to be any other place.
I don't want to be any other place.
If I want to work again, I'm okay.
Right.
I don't want to be any other place. And I love that. And that brings me to you, Grace, because you have such an incredible, and I'm just going to say it's an extremely difficult job. You all do. So don't take that in any way other than I see you all in what you do. And I have such admiration for everything that you lay your hands to, because it's a big deal. Grace, when I saw you, first and foremost, you were on Divine Influencer with me. I've known you and your hubby from Christian World the Christian Worldview Film Festivals for a long time. And I've seen you just shine behind the camera. And I remember on The Forge specifically, because you and I spent different time together on the Divine Influencer. But on The Forge, I remember seeing you one day. And I'll never forget this moment, because it was really, truly the first moment I think that I understood the complexity of your job. And that actually, it was good, and also kind of hurt me in a way that I didn't have a better understanding. You were standing there and you had a folder. And I don't know if you recall this, but you had a folder that was probably this thick. I mean, literally, probably like this, a 3-ring binder that was this thick. And I remember being like, what is that? And you were taking it into our editor, Bill Ebel. And you said to me, I'm his representation on set. and this is what is his, I take this in, I create this book for him. And so, and it really hit me, and I thought, wow, what you have to do on this movie and any part of this project that you are part of is an absolutely incredible task. And I want you to share a little bit about that, because not only how you prepare for a movie, but when you're on the set, how critical it is for you with what you're doing, because it really is, you're the ears and the eyes and everything for an editor, which is ultimately who will be the next storyteller of the film. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you do that.
Yeah. I'm the editor's representative on set. So basically, I'm trying to take notes in a way that will benefit him. Sometimes I'm able to get in touch with the editor before set, which is really nice, because I can kind of talk to him or her and just ask, like, what are you looking for? Like, what's most helpful for you? Because some editors prefer certain types of notes over others. But when I can have that conversation, that helps me know what to look for. But essentially, the notes that I take are with the editor's ease in mind. So I'm making sure that I'm labeling everything correctly so that whenever he's looking through footage, everything matches. Because he's usually going to be looking for something specific. He's going to want to know how many takes we did of this certain angle, which one the director liked best. And I'm also watching for if an actor flubbed a line on the director's favorite take, I might say, but this take has the best version of that line. I'm watching for continuity so that whenever they go to cut the scene together, all of the hand motions match up. Everything looks like we shot it all in order and at the same time, because everybody knows we don't shoot in order or at the same time. Sometimes the scene is shot over multiple days. So it's just taking really good notes, thorough notes, to make sure that I can keep track of what we've got and what we haven't. Because sometimes I'll have to run in and say, hey, we don't have this angle, or the only time that this person said this line, we didn't actually see their face. And just making sure that the director of photography and the director know, like, and usually my job is not to be like, hey, we must get this. So I'm just letting them know we didn't get this. And it's up to them to decide how important it is or if they think that they need it. That's a little bit in a nutshell.
No, but that's so great, because I think that's something that for me, even as a director, and I'm still learning, and it's still such a challenge because you have so many people coming at you, right? But ultimately, you're trying to get these shots in, and really, it's like you have to think about, when you go into the editing bay, what you have and what you don't have. And that's why, and it's such a critical part of what you do, because if we're on set and we're not editing almost like in our mind, right, as the whole process is happening, you are also those eyes and the note taking to come back in and say, when you get into the editing bay, you may not have this shot and there's nothing to cut to. And so that's such a critical part of it. What do you think has been one of the biggest challenges that you've faced on set when having to do that?
I think probably, so I will say, I think every set that I've been on, I learned something new about the editing process and my job in general. And I will say, like, Alex is an incredible editor as well as a director. And so many times whenever I would give him a note of like, oh, hey, we didn't get this shot. Were you wanting to get this? And he would just say, no, actually, I'm going to cut to this and then cut to this. And that's how it's going to come together. And I was just kind of blown away that he can put it together in his head like that. I don't have that skill yet. So I think for me, that is probably my biggest challenge, is like, I can look at the pages on the script and know what we have and don't have, but I don't necessarily know how the editor wants to put it together, or like all the different ways that you can put something together. So sometimes I will give notes that weren't actually necessary because I didn't have a full understanding of, like, we actually don't need to see this person because we're focusing on this person. And it's kind of subjective too. So kind of like for me, figuring out the notes that I need to give and also how to give them, like what tone to give them in or what moment to give them in, I think is probably the biggest challenge for me.
Yeah, that's really good. And also, just an encouragement, keep asking those questions and telling those directors because they need to hear you. And so often we're in the middle of like 10 different things and it's such a, you really help with that process, but that's really good to know. Which leads me to you, Tammy. You mentioned earlier when you were sharing about wigs. And this is a part of this process because we're going to go back and we're going to all talk a little bit about continuity. And you are all in this particular piece where you have to think about those things, right? What is that like for you when you're picking out wigs and when you're fitting somebody for those? And how do you go through the process of deciding, oh, this is going to fit this character and this is what's going to work or not work?
Once I start to read the script, I start building wigs and looks based on the end. How's the show going to end? And then in between that, I'll say something like, it's an everyday look, a party look, and maybe a nighttime look. And so in my mind, I already have 3 looks, and those 3 looks can take place in the same day in a scene in a movie. So what's the most effective way for me to transition that we're not so delayed with the next shot? So I'm constantly thinking, if I have this wig and I have that wig, then I can just switch them out. So I'm building from beginning to end as to what I think the look should look like. So if it's tousled, then I need to have a tousled wig. If it's frizzy or if it's straight, then I need to make sure I have a straight wig, because if they need that same look in the same day, I can't take hair from straight to tousled, frizzy in a matter of 30-minute turnaround. I can't do that. So I'm constantly building and thinking, and I actually enjoy that. Like that's the best part for me. And then by the time, so if I know that we're shooting day 7 and then we're shooting day 12 on the same day, I already know that which wigs and how I need to place these wigs. They're like already there. That's like the last thing I'm worried about.
Wow.
So I totally, that's my favorite part actually. It's building.
It is. It's kind of like a puzzle, right? Because
yeah,
said Anna, it might have been you, but we don't necessarily film from the beginning of the movie to the end. Like we're not doing a linear storytelling. So often we're telling it a lot of times actually from the end to the beginning. And so, you all are such incredible. You're incredible at your craft, and it comes with that continuity and really breaking down your scripts and also working with your talent and creating those characters. Yes. So that's something, Chandler, like even with you, you came in, and if I remember correctly, one of the first scenes that you had to get Priscilla ready for was the end of the movie. She was actually in a party scene that was actually part of a montage that took place at the end of the movie. And so, you kind of got thrown in. What is it like for you to come into a project? You start this movie at the end of the movie working with somebody like Priscilla, and then how do you work with her as the talent to talk about what is going to be the best makeup, what's it going to look like, because there's so many elements to the character, right? And you're kind of building that story out. So tell us a little bit about that.
What I think is, what I pray every day going to work is, I pray to God is your words, my mouth, my hands. And I always want to make my talent feel their best. I think being an actress or an actor, you will perform your best when you feel your best. And a lot of that is how your day begins. And I always loved Shari. What you brought me on to Divine because we had the same moral of we are in this actor space. It is very important to have a good attitude and to be a safe space for talent. And a lot of that I've discovered goes with collaborating and having those conversations of how do you feel your best? Are there processes that you like to do in your ritual of every morning or when you're getting ready that make you feel your best? So what was nice with working as a personal with Priscilla was we had those conversations of her ideas. She also played 2 characters this film. So we really collaborated on how we were going to differentiate the two characters enough while also still making her feel completely comfortable and ready to take on the scenes that made her feel her best. So we'd figure out little ways of every morning what she could do, whether, just little eye patches or anything like that that grounds the talent, I think has become very important in my process working with talent, is figuring out those things that could really ground them in the beginning of their day, and picking up on, when they're going over their lines, when they're, just giving them that space and that peace every day is super, super important. And that allows the makeup to kind of follow the feelings. So a lot of that just comes down to logistics, looking at the day shots of what the order is going to be, and figuring out what is going to translate, what we could build on, what we could strip back. But I will say they made it very, very easy. Not easy, but they were so mindful. The Kendrick brothers are so mindful when it comes to every department, with continuity and with what will make it easier on us. So they were really, if they did not make it a scary place to ask if, maybe, could we think about maybe placing that at a different time throughout the day, and if they could make it work, they would. So I do have to commend them for that, because that was very, very refreshing on set. I know hair and makeup is the easiest to flip, opposed to set dressing and all that. So
I'm going to teeter off of that, because one thing that you said was you also, and I'll lean into you next here, Anna, is you talked a little bit about Priscilla being a twin. Each and every one of you sitting before me, I mean, that's something you have to take into consideration, right? Between wigs and makeup and continuity and wardrobe. But Anna, that kind of hits me in the sense of, a lot of people don't realize that when you go into a film, you guys are actually setting what we call a closet for these characters, and the closets are set. And so, talk a little bit about that, because the difference between Priscilla and I want to say Priscilla 1 and Priscilla 2, but her characters really were, she was trying to show these very different sisters. Even though they were twins, they both had different personalities. Talk to us a little bit about that when it comes to setting those closets, the wardrobe, and what that might have been like for you on set with somebody who is playing a twin, and how you had to keep those things, keep track of that.
Yeah, well, it was so fun, because I think Priscilla kind of got to pick the vibe of each character, and so she did a great job at it. And then Anna Redmond and the rest of the team did a great job at executing it. So I more just got to watch all the fun. I just felt like it was like playing dress up. So I'd run back to the costume truck, and I forget what the official term is, but our girl who was on the truck, she was like truck girl. So she had everything lined up. I didn't have to touch it. I just had to make sure everything went back where we pulled it from. But the organization is crazy on the trucks. I had never seen anything like that before. And so it's like shoes, socks, jewelry, everything has to be in the perfect spot in that bag, with a tag on it that's labeled with a scene number, with the description of what's in the bag. And so they got an amazing system down for it. But it was the most terrifying feeling when you realize you don't have that pair of shoes that you thought you had it, and you thought, this character wore it, but really it was the twin sister. And you're like, so you're running back on set trying to find it. So I had a couple slip ups where I was supposed to grab like a pair of shoes or something. But it was so fun seeing Priscilla get to play with the outfits, and then seeing which ones she liked afterwards, where she's like, oh, I wish I could take that home and put that one in my closet. But yeah, I think it was pretty easy to look at an outfit and say, oh, I know, her character here is going to wear Elizabeth or Cynthia. And then it's like, oh, that's totally a Cynthia outfit, because it's, boho and more of the free spirit type. And then Elizabeth is very businesswoman, very put together. And so anyway, it was a blast. I'm very thankful that I was not head man on the organization of the truck, because it is a crazy system.
No, I love that, because really, and so many people forget that, you know, hair and makeup and wardrobe and location and all those things are part of a character. They are characters themselves, and that is the beauty of what we get to do, is we get to create and work with the talent to create these characters. And I think that's so significant when it comes to wardrobe. Back to Janet, because you have been now also in the sphere where not only are you serving behind the scenes, and you do it so well, and you've done so many different, I mean, you are a servant, and a servant's heart is really what is so beautiful about what you do on these sets, Janet. And but in the Forge also, you got to have a cameo, and you know, thinking about wardrobe and thinking about putting this character together and thinking about being a piece of that, what is it like as the talent?
I loved having so much fun in the hair and makeup trailer. It was so great, because normally I'm on set working, and I got to just hang out with them, and they just treated me and loved on me so well. And they do that for everybody, but for me, it was just such a special time to have that moment. And because in Flywheel, we didn't have any of that. In Fireproof, we had a little bit, but we didn't have trailers and all that stuff. So it was really neat to just go and just go through the process and just see all of my friends doing what God had gifted them to do in their area. Is just phenomenal. And when you realize that a movie that you watch on screen isn't just one person, it is tons of different people with God-given talents and gifts, using it to bring this whole story to life. And it was just a lot of fun to visit all the different departments almost and seeing what they did.
I love it. I love seeing your face. I love you light up just it. So you did a beautiful job, and you definitely brought your character to life. Grace, what was that like for you? Because now we're talking about continuity. We're talking about twins. We're talking about a pretty large cast of people. What is that like for you in keeping track of those characters?
Yeah, I'll say the twin aspect was definitely a challenge. I don't know how much detail I can talk about it because the movie hasn't come out yet, but just the scenes, especially where the twins are supposed to interact with each other, like hand each other an object or something like that. It's so hard because you're only filming with one person at a time. And so I would record with my phone the video of the first twin so that I could look back and watch it as we were like recording with the second twin and be like, okay, I don't think that hand motion matched with what we got with the other twin. And so it's not going to cut very well. And just like trying to keep track of that. But also every other department is trying to track that same thing with the twins. So like just kind of like running between everybody and making sure, okay, did that look right to you? Like, does this work? And then the scenes in the Forge with like all the guys and they're young men and they're all wearing suits but on different days. So you've got all these people wearing different things, different days, which I know is a lot for wardrobe. But like for me, like making sure we actually got the footage of every guy and made sure he was standing in the right spot in the circle next to the right person that he was in with this other shot, like that was probably the more challenging, like multi-person setup that we had for that film. But yeah, that was challenging.
I was going to say, you know, even thinking about that right now, not just thinking about just the twins, but what you just said, the discipleship scenes, the Forge scenes. You know, when people watch this movie, they are going to see that. And so many people don't really understand what it's like to be on a movie set. And man, I wish everybody could experience it, because it really does take the body. It's like this perfect picture of the church. It's a body making sure that all these, you know, elements and pieces are working together. But Chandler, you were on this movie. It's the first time with the Kendricks, but you've grown up also in church. You've grown up on the Kendrick Brothers movies. What do you think for your culture, your age group right now? What's the hope for you in this movie, and how do you feel that it's going to influence a culture for today?
I think such an important underlying message of the film is it's all about character. It's about what you're doing when no one's watching, what you're doing when you're not getting credited. It's all about that character build of true character of being a child of God. And I think it's so vital right now. I'm 28. I'm seeing a lot of people in my age group really trying to figure out their identity in their careers and their home lives. You know, I have friends at all different stages of life right now. My dad and my husband, they started a group called More Good Men that they meet up once a month over Zoom, and it's all with men about 20 to 35. They've kept it small, but you know, over the last 2 years, they keep getting new people in, and I think it's about what's really going to kind of hit with my age group is identity, and what really laying down your foundation of your identity into Christ is going to flourish in every aspect of your life, your home life, your career, everything. It all starts at that root foundation of where you lay your roots and your foundation with your relationship with God, and how that trickles out into every single thing you do, and the example you lead by towards everyone else in your group. And I know this movie is going to reach all the men and women, especially my age group, realizing they don't have to have the right answers. They don't have to figure everything out. All they have to do is focus on that foundation that they're laying down with their relationship with God, and how that will naturally lead and bleed into every single aspect of their life. And that's really just where it starts.
Wow, that's really good. That's really well said. And I love that you said that, because where that takes me is just even to this authentic, this lifestyle, this authentic lifestyle. And so often what we see even in our culture today is just thinking through discipleship, thinking about our day in and day out, our interaction, thinking about the people we meet at the grocery store. What does that look like? Just timing, or friends, or, but I love the authentic part of it. And, Anna, we were talking about the authentic parts of it and what people were looking at today and in the culture. So talk a little bit about that just in the discipleship. And what do you hope that people take away from this movie, your age group, and what your hopes are for discipleship, and maybe how somebody is pouring into your life or you're pouring into somebody else's?
Yeah, well, it's been cool. I've gotten to see the different edits of the movie, and so I'm in Nashville now. My family's in Georgia, so I don't know. It's easy because the whole process of filming a movie, then editing, everything that has to happen before it's actually in theaters. It's easy when you're not part of that editing process and everything else that's post, filming, to not forget about it, but to a degree, I'm like, anyway. So when I watch the film again, every time I get to see the new cut of it, it fires me up, because I realize this is not just for people who are, married with multiple kids, who, are, 40s at whatever, to pour into younger people. It needs to be every generation. And so, and it's not that you have everything I'm in my early 20s. And so I have 23 years of life experience. So I only have that to share with people who are younger than me, but it's fired me up, because I'm like, even being in a new city, I've been here for like 10 months now. Just recently, I was like, okay, I've got to find some younger girls to pour into, because I've been attending this church that I love. I've been around a lot of people my age and older than me who are pouring into me. And I literally, last time I went home and watched the latest cut, I was like, I've got to do something, because even in the movie we see, well, I won't say anything, but you see that in the movie. You do see that displayed in the movie. So anyway, it's made me check myself. I've had to sit down and ask the Lord. I'm like, okay, practically, without overcommitting to things, because there's lots of things, especially in the church world, that you can jump into, then you get in over your head, and sometimes you can burn out. But also, you need to be giving even in busy seasons. And so for me, it's been like, all right, are there some high school girls? I just got involved with this group that ministers to disciple high school girls. So it's new, and I also feel like high schoolers are way different than I was when I was in high school. So even that's been interesting, but it's been fun. So yeah, I think it's for all ages. And it was cool seeing that on the movie set. But then also, I really, really think that if you watch the film, you can't walk away from it, whether you liked it or not, whether it was your cup of tea. It will challenge every person that watches it to be like, are you doing this? Are you doing this in your own life when no one's looking? Or even if it's just one-on-one, even if it's one person you're being intentional with, like at the grocery store, Miss Janet, what you said, even like if you're seeing one person over and over again, that, you know, the practice of just being consistent and showing up every time, or if it is inconvenient sometimes, being like, hey, it's literally just, I think Heidi Baker's who said this, she was like, she does incredible ministry all over the world, and someone asked her, they were like, how do you do what you do? And she was like, it's stopping for the one person. And so I've always remembered that line. It's like, you stop and you be intentional with whoever's right in front of you, and look them in the eye, and don't be like, look at, and just be intentional with one person. And that's what discipleship is, I think. So I'm learning, so we'll forever be learning. I think it'll look different at every stage of life, every season, but everyone should be doing it and just taking the time, you know?
I think you bring up a good point, Anna, too, is that the enemy wants us to think that we're too young, or that we don't know enough about the word, or we are further along in our Christian walk, so we have nothing to offer somebody else. And that is not true. Like, people need to see in discipleship honesty and transparency. They need to see what does it look like when you mess up, and how do you ask for forgiveness in a biblical way, and how do you love people that are hard to love. Like, they just need to come along and see you living your life for Christ. And so it's so important to be like, okay, I'm not going to believe the lies of the enemy. And we know Scripture says do not look down upon them because of their age, like, but set an example to believe. You know, that's in Timothy. So young people have something to offer somebody else. And so I love that Anna's like, Lord, show me who I could be pouring into that's younger. And yes, you only have 23 years of life, but you've seen God do amazing things in those 23 years. And just coming alongside a young girl and praying for her and giving her that time is going to be huge in her life. So everyone has something to offer to somebody else.
And I do just want to piggyback on that, Anna. You were incredible witnessing you on set, the way you poured into people, whether you realize it or not. I'm 5 years older than you. I was inspired by your leading, and you're such a natural leader. And I don't think age has any kind of reign on discipleship and really mentoring or anything like that. And I think by leading by example, every person on this set, it just was infectious. So I really loved watching you, Anna, pour into.
I want to piggyback off that too.
I know, me too.
Because the whole, like, Anna, whenever you said that quote about seeing the one person in front of you, I feel like you exemplified that so well to me on set. Just because, like, I didn't know you before this, but you were just so warm and fun and approachable, and I just really enjoyed getting to collaborate with you, and I just felt you helped me feel less awkward. So super great.
And for me, discipleship is about, it's a non-judgmental statement. It's about diversity, equality, and inclusion. And when we all get to heaven and we all look alike, there's no judgment, there's no age difference. It's just all about love. And that's what we have, that's what I experience, and that's what we have to exude in our daily living. When we're watching the movies about discipleship, when we're living our day about discipleship, we have to be able to reach out and encourage people to, regardless of age, regardless of genetics, it doesn't matter, demographics, we have to be able to always witness the kingdom of God to them. And that's what I get every day, every time I'm with the Kindreds, every time I think about that experience, every time I think about each and every last one of you, I felt the love and the discipleship right there every day. And I'm grateful for that. And I pray that what was fed into me, that I can continue to share that with others. And that's my purpose. That's my mission. That's what I choose to do.
It's so good. It's so good. And that's what this movie is all about. It's all of, and what you all are doing right now, you just sharpened each other. I love it. You just loved on and did exactly what was on this movie. And it's so good. And I am so excited that people are going to get to see this movie August 23rd in movie theaters everywhere nationwide. I'm hearing great things and reports that it's international. It's going to go international into multiple languages. And so we're going to continue to keep praying and believing and knowing that God has such a great purpose for this movie. August 23rd, ladies, without you and your talents and your gifts and really ultimately your love for one another, this movie and so many other movies could not be made. They might be made, but here's the thing is this. A mentor and a dear friend of mine always says, the spirit that goes in is the spirit that comes out. And I think that we can all agree that when we bring Jesus into our movie, into our pre-pro, our production, our after, our life, when we're walking it out and we see it day to day and we know what goes in and what comes out, we see a movie that is not just a movie, but it is truly touched by the hand of God. And that is what will resonate with people to share this message of discipleship. The Lord gave us a command. It doesn't matter how many other jobs any of us have. We don't have to add anything else to our resume. He told us to go out and make disciples. And so that's it. And I love how the Lord said, my yoke is light. Here's what I've called you to do. And here it is, and scripturally what each and every one of you do day in and day out in your jobs and your lives. And on these movies, you're doing exactly that. So I love y'all. I thank you for joining me at the table today and coming and talking about some real authentic just topics and conversations. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us on Come to the Table. We are so excited about this new movie, The Forge. Make sure that you get your tickets today. You can go on to theforgemovie.com and get your pre-tics, and make sure that you are taking anybody and everybody that you can to this movie. And also, the way we can pay it forward is, there are a lot of people out there that need a date night. They might need to take a friend to a movie. Maybe it's father-daughter, maybe it's daughter-father, I don't know, but you can purchase a couple tickets and take your family and your friends to see this incredible movie. I promise you it is going to change your life. So August 23rd in theaters, make sure you get your tickets today, and make sure that you check out all of these ladies and the things that they're doing. Thank you for joining us.